Hey Bill, DJ, Scott. I was talking with Bill and just wanted to clarify, I think, with a short video, what we were discussing, so that you guys can look at it before we talk. We're looking at how can I really see the resource load to capacity over the horizon, and I'm using a copy of the database. It's about a month old that we got from you guys in a slightly newer version of Concerto, but I think most of the charts that I look at with you are going to be the same. First of all, where does the capacity numbers come? Capacity numbers come from what's called the global resource file. It's just a place where we tally up how many resources you have, and I've asked Wilderness for an updated head count from you guys so we can make sure this is as accurate as possible as we go into this next planning cycle. And as an example, I just wanted to show you there's 181 sheet metal guys in this capacity file, 278 aircraft mechanics, AV 108, and so on. So don't know how accurate these numbers are. I know there's been quite a bit of hiring but also some attrition. And there's also a place where we can say we have 181 sheet metal mechanic, but we can also say, hey, 10 of these guys are not trained. So if there's 10 of these guys that are not trained, it's going to back out that 10 number of the 181 when it's looking at the overall capacity. Those also may be guys that are sitting in the engine shop or something that are working over there that aren't really modeled in the Concerto network. So we have to be a little bit creative when we think about this and what our real capacity is for the work that's happening that's being modeled by the Concerto task, which is the majority of the work, but we may want to take some units and call them reserve units. Okay, so that's where those numbers come from, the capacity numbers, say 181 for sheet metal mechanics. Then if I look at load to capacity for just the C-130 division overall, all aircraft workload, what I can see is that 181 number ends up right here for sheet metal. So 181 is my capacity load, and I've got a 4-week window here. So over the next 4 weeks is 308, so that's why it shows up red, meaning I've got more load than the capacity. Now you can see in this so this is about a month old, but it's not that much different than what you have currently. If I look out 6 months or even 13 weeks, what I'll see is everything turns green. And what that simply means is we just don't have the aircraft that are positioned in the pipeline as committed aircraft in queue, even though we know the induction schedule for the next year. But they're not currently in Concerto in what we call a committed mode, which means we should be able to see that load for the next year. I should be able to come in here and say, look, 12 months, the next 12 months, where are my peaks and valleys based on my current capacity and a load over time. So that's one way to look at load the capacity across the whole squadron. I could also, but once I start slicing it, say I only want to look at PDM, I need to keep in mind in this chart anyway, the capacity numbers are staying the same, right? I'm not breaking out. There's not a separate table when I look at just the capacity for PDM or JMOD or so on and so forth. And of course, if I take the gate down to just repair and build up, the capacity, the load's going to come down, but the capacity is going to remain constant, so everything turns green. But at least you can see the load over time for that gate. Okay, another way to look at that load at the gate and break it down a little bit further. And again, this gate here, just to make sure, this gate is a manually assigned gate to that aircraft. So if I've got 8 aircraft in that gate actually, but only 6 of them have this attribute attached to them, then I'm going to be missing some of the aircraft. As an example, in this situation, there are 6 aircraft showing up here in the PDM repair and build up gate. So just something to keep in mind. In the future, we're going to make that auto linkage between what gate it's in and the actual make this so it's not a manual update, it's auto updated. Okay, a couple other places we can look for resource needs is this resource needs report. So here I put aircraft workload PDM, C-130 division, put Allgate in the beginning, so, and I just put one skill. So here's AS skill. I can break this out by resources or by tail number, but right now I just got it by resources. So for AS resource across all the aircraft that are in the hangar, this is the current load, and I've got it by month, so I just break it out for the next 4 weeks as an example. So I can see by aircraft, you know, how many sheet metal mechanics over a period of 24 hours. So 36 sheet metal mechanics over a 36-hour period on 692 and so on and so forth. So you can see in the first few weeks we're very heavy loaded, and this would typically be the case if we have, you know, aircraft that are sitting in queue that are, you know, ready to start today, but we can't start them. We still see that load. Okay, if that makes sense. So we're not taking that load out of this chart. If I want to just look at the PDM repair and build up gate, and again it's these 6 aircraft, I can refresh and I could say, look, my load in the PDM repair gate for those 6 aircraft right now is 128 sheet metal mechanics, and it goes down pretty quickly. So, and a lot of this sheet metal mechanic work may be tied to, you know, the sheet metal mechanic portion within the Tier 1 tasks that may be completed already. So if your sheet metal is ahead, this load may still show up here a little bit only because they're in those tasks that maybe they've completed. As an example, if I want to see what makes up that, on this aircraft, at 36.5 hours, I open, click on the 36.5, and I can see the not started in progress tasks all ready to start today. So suggested likely start is either the task is not started and it should start, or it's in progress and it's got some remaining duration left on it. So if it's got 15.5 remaining duration days on it, it's going to use this load at the Tier 1 level. So some of that load may be, here's an example of repair left wing. Repair left wing requires 6 sheet metal mechanics and 6 aircraft mechanics, and what we basically said is 3 on days and 3 on swings, with 1 AV guy on that wing for a period of time. And this has got 7 days of remaining duration. Now if somebody's gone and increased that remaining duration, of course we're going to say that load is needed for that amount of time. Okay, so that's kind of how the logic works. Again, these are Tier 1 roll-up loads from the major jobs that are underneath that Tier 1. So we're doing this loading at the Tier 1 level. So I just want you to be can't even see that well. I could drag this window up a little bit there. That's a little bit better. Okay, so that's the report that I'm looking at. So let's go ahead and close this, and we can also you can slice and dice this data quite a few different ways. This is one way to do it. This also may be helpful even at the individual tail number. If I'm looking at, say, 209, and I want to go out instead of weeks, I just want to look at what's the load I need today or tomorrow. If I'm loading this aircraft, I need 30 sheet metal mechanics. Or if I want to look at all the resources that are needed on that aircraft, you know, the AMT can look at this if we wanted them to, and say, look, these are, if this aircraft is in work and I want to fully man load this thing, that's what this looks like. Of course, keeping in mind that I need 24 sheet metal mechanics, but some of that sheet metal work may be tailing down. So maybe today I don't need 24, I only need 15. But based on the actual work cards that are remaining. Okay. Another way to look at this, and I don't like it as well, I like the resource needs chart. You should probably maybe put some capacity numbers along with the load when we're looking at the full load across the squadron. But the SAN chart is one other way to look at this. Similar, it's just putting it into, you know, some people like the SAN chart format. Here if I look at repair and build up gate for sheet metal skills on 209, I need 27 guys today, and so on and so forth. So I can also open this up to all tail numbers, all 6 aircraft. And for sheet metal, I need 130 guys. Tomorrow, I need this many. And this is a weekly bucket, so I can also. No, this is only in weeks, so it's not in days. So, but this is, you know, a sand chart. So if you like that type of graphics, that's great. I personally like the resource needs a little bit better. So this is kind of some ways we can look at the resource load to capacity to make this more accurate, meaning everything now is a bit front-loaded and we don't see the data in the out months. So I really want to encourage you guys that we get a good pipeline exercise done. I know we were close a while back, and Colonel Martin wanted the improvement plans to marry up with the WIP reduction plans and all that good stuff, which is great. He's now asked Scott to go back in and revisit the pipeline and get the pipelines resnapped. So if we do that, then we can put, revisit good project control and really create in our pipeline the WIP flush plan that if we follow it, we can level out this load a little bit, and we don't have everything, or the load won't be sitting in queue, if that makes sense. So it's basically, it'll say, hey, this aircraft that's in queue, don't start it for another couple weeks until we should start it, based on the movement of the aircraft through the constraint. Okay, so I think Scott has asked DJ to sit with you for a little bit and discuss the strategy for the pipeline going forward. But I wanted to give you at least some visual training, and we can talk about some more what's in Concerto that can support looking for resource loads in the near term, also overloads in the future as you ramp up induction plans. And so you can marry up your hiring plans and everything. Okay? All right. Great. Thanks, guys. I'll see you maybe tomorrow. Okay. Bye.